Thank you, sir. They almost knocked me over with the chairs over there. How are you doing?
I'm glad you made it through. We have that obstacle course just to make sure that our keynoters are not just mentally fit, but physically.
Ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I got to tell you that I think you were my first Valentine's hug yesterday. So you gave me that interview, and that was the first hug. I don't mean to get personal with the audience here.
I thought that was between us, but apparently.
Oh, no, that was good. Thank you.
Apparently it's out now.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about making money from AI, generating revenue from AI, and AI has certainly been a sea change. I'd like to see a quick show of hands. How many people are using AI regularly in their business? Wow.
Not bad.
40%.
40.
How many people, right, 50%?
Yeah, easily.
50, all right. How many people think AI will be revolutionary for their business? Wow. It's
just a little more, just a little more, right? Do we have a...
And by the way, while we're asking these questions, we'd love to see the chairs, panelist chairs come up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, come on up, guys. Don't be shy. So, all right, next question. How many people think there is going to be a major employment challenge as a result of AI? Instead of becoming more efficient, we're going to see just a massive loss of jobs. No, almost nobody. That's like
really?
3%.
You know what's interesting actually is there's 3 million truck drivers out there every day hitting the roads in America. So you think about the challenge of employment. A lot of folks are saying it's going to create a lot of employment. If you're in prompt engineering, I think you got a really good line of sight. But think about the implications of something like truck drivers, maybe 10 years out, 20 years out. So not today, not tomorrow, but Rich is absolutely right. I mean, the board level pressure coming in to say, what are you going to do about AI, right?
Yeah, that's great. So listen, now you got your chairs here. You're ready to go with your keynote. You're not getting another hug until next year. I'm going to shake your hand.
Oh, come on, Rich.
Leave this in your capable hands.
All right, thanks. All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on, we can do better than that. We got it. Like, good morning. All right, all right. My name's Dan Foster. I'm here to, first off, I'm super honored to talk to you about obviously one of the hottest topics out there, artificial intelligence, to a group of technology advisors. In fact, this is the first gratuitous use of AI. This is actually me. I'm 10 years younger. I'm 6'5". I'm 225. I run a 5-minute mile in this one. So it's exciting to use AI everywhere in the business. But here's what I want to talk to you about today is on a serious note. We got a lot going on out there. There's a lot of advantage. We have thousands of technology advisors that we interact with every year, and they're asking, how do we think about AI? What are the best use cases, and what are the outcomes? Use cases and outcomes, that's what we're going to talk about. And so here's what I'm going to tell you is, I'm not going to give you a history lesson. You can go all the way back to 1956, all that fun stuff, the Dartmouth labs, but really, I think an important milestone, 2017. 2017, Google's DeepMind Institute. They take AlphaZero. Everybody know AlphaGo. Some of you may know this story. AlphaGo, AlphaZero, they train it to play chess. AlphaGo plays Go. It's one of these basic automated tools that they're taking and training. In 9 hours, it plays 44 million games of chess against itself. Now, you may say that's kind of incredible. What I find incredible, within 2 hours, it had actually bested every human move ever made. Probably more interestingly, when they go back, and now there's people that get any big chess players out here? Big chess players? Not a lot. There are people out there that subscribe to Chess News and the rest, okay? So this was a big thing for them. But think about this. After 2 hours, what they went back and looked and found, the new moves that it had created had never been thought of by chess masters. Grandmasters went back and looked at this, and they said, we'd never even contemplated. So whole new outcomes. In fact, Eric Schmidt talks about this. When you look at molecular development, it's whole new outcomes. It's not just speeding up the work. Okay, so now fast forward. November, this is a quiz, okay? Get ready, get on your feet. November 15 months ago, November 2022, what happens? ChatGPT drops, right? OpenAI, a lot of investment, kind of behind the scenes. When that dropped, this whole world started. The news, it was a deluge. And what's interesting is 3 weeks later, I'm out on a boat in Newport Beach. And one of these guys, one of our tech advisors, is about 100 people. Anybody ever been to the holiday parade in Newport Beach? Put it on the bucket list. We're on a boat. Guy shows me. He goes, watch this. Picks up his phone and goes, create me a 5-page RFP for a contact center as a service with voice sentiment analysis. And I was like, that's funny, Artie. Yeah, funny. Sits there and rips off an RFP. I send it to my guys. They say, this is good work. Now, we do a lot of contact center, a lot of work in AI. That happened on that boat. Pretty interesting in terms of the outcomes occurring out there. Now, let me see a show of hands. Who here is tech advisor? Anybody out there being a tech advisor? Show of hands. Service provider, MSP? MSPs, yeah? What about the rest of you? You just in here for a free lunch? What? Come on. So, okay, here we go. I got a better question. I'm from the coast of Maine. We love our fishing. Any fishermen out there? All right. We got more fishermen than tech advisors. This is good. I figured down in Florida I was in good company here. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what's interesting. Here's another use case. We're going to talk use case and outcomes. Up in Norway and the UK, invasive species introduced by Russia. They're in there actually pushing out the Atlantic salmon. So what does the Norwegians in UK do? They come together and they say, let's use facial and pattern recognition. This is the feel-good story. I'm trying to warm you up a little here. They use pattern recognition, and sure enough, the good guys come in, and they get through. Let's see the good guys come through. Let's see if this works. Good guys get through, go to the left. Bad guys, I don't know if it's going to work. Bad guys go all the way through into the holding pen, end up on your dinner tonight, okay? So this is there's so many use cases. This is dramatic what's going on, people. So when we look at this and look at AI in the news, it's a barrage. In fact, if you know me, if you get tortured by me, in fact, I see Jay Lowe out in the audience here. Jason Lowe is our senior solution architect of artificial intelligence. The poor guy gets a 5 a.m. text from me, like once a week or so? 3 times a week. Come on, Jason, you're exaggerating. But it's not just Jason. I torture a lot of people. In fact, I torture my wife. So I go to Wall Street Journal every morning. I go to TechCrunch, and I go to VentureBeat. VentureBeat's turned into AI Beat, I think. It's all AI. Nabla, AI co-pilot for doctors, nets 24 million. Startup, right? Sounds kind of like, blah, there's so much money. We're talking backstage. You're going to meet a lot of these folks. $1 trillion of investment coming in. They're trying to raise, in fact, Altman's trying to raise $10 trillion. So what's 24 million? So of course, I torture my poor wife. In fact, the fact that I'm showing you guys the text, I told her I was going to show a couple people a text between she and I. So if you end up talking to her later. So I said, hey, look at this. She comes right back, 5:30 in the morning, asks me about why I get out of work every day. So my wife's an ER doctor. She works twice a week. She works 8 to 5. She usually gets out at 6:30, doing charting, doing all that work. Interesting. I was like, I forgot. Yeah, you've been home more than on time. You get home twice a week at 5. Tell me more. She goes, well, let's just say I'd buy stock in this company. So here's what's interesting. She's in the ER, taking some, as you would imagine, some cases in the ER, pretty dramatic. She's got a co-pilot walking along with her while she's talking to the patient, integrating into the electronic medical records, doing the charting. So at the end of the day, she goes in and says, wow, this all I got to do is validate, make sure it's not hallucinating, right? We know that with AI. Validate the work that is going on. I think that's pretty interesting. I get an hour and a half back of my wife every day. Think of it. She's in the largest medical group west of the Mississippi. Here you got a startup. So these guys went from startup to saving thousands of hours of physicians. Sounds disruptive. Does that sound disruptive? The new name of the game, people, is productivity. What I just shared with you, my story of my wife, is productivity. This is one of there's so many stats out there. So many stats. This is my favorite stat. Comes out of, by the way, this is a great study. If you haven't, download that study. For every dollar invested, $3.50 of investment coming back, right? That's pretty impressive. So download that, but really try to understand what works for you personally. We had Rich asked you guys earlier, anybody using Microsoft for Copilot yet? Anybody? Just more people doing that. Well, actually, we still have more fishing people than that. So, and if you use Copilot, it's amazing where this is going to go. Think of it. You use AI Companion in your meeting, so you get off the video, you use that, and then you go, Copilot, Earth to Copilot, please summarize the meeting and create a 10-page presentation for my boss, Adam Edwards, if he's listening, and have a very powerful summary. Guess what? Oh, and have it on my desk in 30 minutes. Copilot complies. It's just like that. The productivity race has never been more dramatic. And so when we think about the productivity tools out there, whether it's AI in the ER enabling more efficiency, better patient outcome, whether it's restoring salmon to their native habitat, or more importantly, where we're going to go right now with this conversation, AI is trimming cost in the use of public cloud, absolutely dramatically reducing costs. AI is using security operations to fight the bad guy, and we're going to hear about that in a minute, enabling a better fight against the bad guy because they're actually using the same tools. AI is dramatically changing our customer experience, and you're going to hear about that in a sec too. In fact, what I want to do is introduce a team of experts here. Some of our world-class providers are going to join me on stage, so if you don't mind, join me, Skylar Stewart with Epic.io. Skylar, come on up. Anant Singh from Sonis. You're going to love this story that Anant's got. And then Rob Stevens, CEO of Thrive. Welcome. And Raghu Ravinutala, welcome. How are you? Good morning. Team, these guys have got some great stories. You guys are doing great work out there. Why don't you just give us a quick intro with the business, what you're up to?
Yeah, Skylar Stewart, VP of AI and IoT with Epic.io. So what we provide is computer vision AI. A lot of what my peers here will be talking about is generative AI, but we do computer vision AI. And basically, we take existing cameras or new cameras and make them intelligent. And then we provide IoT sensors, things like fill levels, environmental monitoring, and things like that, along with wireless connectivity, private cellular networks, and kind of wrap that all in. And we take all of that telemetry from those endpoints and ingest that into a single pane of glass, giving customers insights and true outcomes into all different verticals.
All right, my name is Anant Singh. I run sales at Sonis. We are a real-time speech understanding company. And our first step into this market is with contact centers and understanding different accents. So we translate accents from, India and Philippines to someone who is more, from a first world English-speaking countries. So that's our goal to start off with. And obviously this will lead it to anything that has to do with understanding real-time speech.
I'm Rob Stephenson, CEO of Thrive, and Thrive is one of the largest leading IT managed service providers in the world. We've got about 1,300 employees in 7 nations, and we're very, very focused on cloud and cybersecurity, driving business outcomes for all of our almost 3,000 managed service clients. And we're really focused on utilizing AI through a lot of our vendors, Microsoft, ServiceNow, and Fortinet, and all of those to drive business outcomes. Our security practice has really, really accelerated a lot of the security AI, helping create and block events and so forth in our global solution architecture. So.
Good morning, everyone. This is Raghu. I'm co-founder and CEO for Yellow.ai. We are in the business of making customer service autonomous using generative AI. We are the world's largest conversational AI company for customer service, automating about 12 billion plus interactions every single year with more than 1,000 plus enterprise customers, including the Fortune 500. More than $500 billion of customer service spent is borne by enterprises across the world. And we are really looking to weave the magic of AI to automate a significant part of them and deliver phenomenal benefits and customer experience.
So Raghu, let's start with you. I mean, as a founder, what was the opportunity that you saw, and what's like a great use case? Because this is, when you say automating, I mean, you guys are really bringing another level. You and your peer companies are bringing another level of customer experience. So what was it that you saw as co-founder as like almost a use case that you solved?
We saw some of the genesis of the company was when we saw never before unprecedented adoption of messaging both at the consumer side and the enterprise. Apple iMessage, WhatsApp, telephone is already big, Slack, Microsoft Teams. And when we immediately looked at the market size, companies are spending the contact center billings is $500 billion to $1 trillion every single year. There are 400 billion customer service calls made to businesses every single year. And if you look at how satisfied the end users are, 3% of them are satisfied with any of this customer service. And
that's a low number.
That's a really low number. That's a really low number.
We're a bunch of unsatisfied customers, people.
I think everyone. I would be surprised if anyone doesn't, raise their hands. And AI is ideally suited to really make a difference for this opportunity. As you can see, the biggest application of AI is, ChatGPT. And why ChatGPT is popular is it is presented in an interface that everyone can relate to, which is conversational chat. And customer service is one of the largest use cases that directly resonates with that interface such as ChatGPT. And the use case that we are solving is automating the millions of dollars of spend that enterprises are incurring on customer support operations that are really not meeting their objective.
Yeah.
So we're looking at improving the CSAT, NPS, while reducing the cost by more than 10x.
Okay. So, and Rob, I was reading watching an interview by, I think it's Jitu Patel, who's the head of security from Cisco over the weekend. And the question to him was, well, what are you doing about this? And he said, well, it used to be that the bad guys only had to be right once, and you have to always be right in security, right? Like, otherwise the door's open. But it seems like with a lot of the automation and AI going on, isn't that helping fight? Or is it, who's winning the war, I guess, Rob, here? And give us a sense for what you guys are up to in this unending war against the bad guys.
It's a double-edged coin. And again, we've got nearly 100 people in our global security operations center, our security practice. Our security business grew about 80% last year. So we're seeing an onslaught of clients they're up against the wall. They have 1 or 2 people on their security team, call it 100 to 500 employees, and they can't keep up with all these threats. So on our end, we can use AI delivered through a SOAR. We can ingest tools from every realm, EDR, SIM. We can bring in quality vulnerabilities, scanning of Microsoft Office 365, and pull that into a SAW and use AI to block a logon attempt from 2 geographic areas. You can't be in the same place at once. So it's helping correlate, provide more succinct data for our eyes-on-glass engineers to make better in-time decisions. That's the positive. The negative is the bad guys are using AI at an unprecedented rate to be able to create exploits and vulnerabilities. In the past, and there's been a lot of these in the last month or two. In the past, if you had a Microsoft Exchange exploit, which just recently came out, or a SonicWall exploit, or something around Avanti and some of these other ones, or Kaseya and some of the big guys, when those exploits hit, they're going out one by one to try to get into the networks and do it. Now they can develop AI technologies to go out and hit a broad scam, hit the PowerShells, get into the network, and do all of that work to uncover opportunities before anyone else can keep up. So AI is really a double-edged coin. There's positivity for a company like Thrive that can help provide better service for our clients, but there's also a lot more of power that the bad guys are harnessing to get into these networks.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, our security practice, with the help of world-class players like you, Rob, grew at triple-digit rate, and we still think it's not enough. In fact, our head of security practice was telling a story just this week on a webinar where the company was hacked, and they sent out an email saying, we're shutting down, click here to get your last paycheck. And it's amazing the number of people that click on this. It's amazing. I'm looking at some of you who clicked. Yeah, you know who you are. So let's see. I think this is one of the, you guys are a superstar, Anant, in terms of net new technologies. So as I understand it, almost real-time naturalization of accent. So what's that doing in the market? I mean, I got to believe it's accessing tier 2 markets from a cost leverage perspective, massive OpEx leverage. What's going on there?
So I'm going to piggyback on a stat that Raghu shared, which was very interesting. 400 billion calls taking place, and most of it is right now centered in India and Philippines, right? The way Sanus actually originated from this idea of hey, how can we ensure that you can hire talent and not accent in these places? Today, contact center operations heavily work on the concept of talent comes second, the accent comes first, if you can relate to the people in America and UK and all the English-speaking countries. And that's how they sort of go ahead through their hiring process. Today with Sanus, and that's 56% of people not getting hired on a yearly basis in every call center. And these are the economies that are running on contact center environments. Today with Sanus, that number has gone down to 12%.
Wow.
So that's the impact at the immediate ROI that you see. And going back to the point that tier 2, tier 3 cities, as we all know, in tier 1 cities, it's a lot of saturation. The cost of living goes high because everyone wants to be there.
That's right. Right?
And if you look at Manila, you look at Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, it's like living in San Francisco and New York, in Manhattan, right? With Sanus today, most of the contact center operations are now opening up their locations in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Because now, the reason they were going into tier 1 is to find that talent who had the right kind of accent fixture. Today, we take care of the accents. Talent is plenty available. You can go into tier 2, tier 3 cities and hire as many people as you want. But on the other side, the impact that you're seeing is on the customer end. And that's why we call ourselves a speech understanding company, because accent is the very first barrier that we are trying to break, right? Obviously, sky's the limit with that. What we are trying to also do is make sure that every time you make a call, you don't go into this narrative of the perception, where the perception of a specific agent completely changes based on where they're taking the call from. So we're taking all of those barriers away to make sure that the customer is calling the agent and the agent is able to resolve the problem without having to worry about explaining themselves over and over again and the biases and all of those things that actually exist in today's market. So when you look at diversity and inclusion, Sanus is the perfect play because we are opening up the job markets. More and more people are able to get hired, and they're staying for much longer.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about because I've actually been almost a beneficiary of this, where we had a big operation in a past life, Pune, and we were up in Chandigarh up north trying to look at that because there's a lot of technical talent, but accent was a barrier. So, what's interesting is highly technical up north, accent was a bit of a barrier in this case with the folks we were using. But the cost was actually, the cost was phenomenally
30%,
different.
Yeah.
So you get top engineering talent for 30% less.
Yeah.
But it was deemed, no, we're going to stick with our Pune operation, which was very expensive. So that's kind of the hedge from an operating expense perspective you're addressing.
It's a truly net new product because nothing like this has ever been done before. So when Sanus came out, the first thing that we had to do was invent the wheel in the first place. Before we could, our vision and mission, it's very rare to find a company that has a vision and mission at the time of just writing a white paper in the beginning and understanding what the company needs to be. For us, that came very, very easily because we knew what we were building was net new, and it is a truly GDP shifting product where you can go from cost of living where you're paying $4,000, giving you a San Francisco example, it's horrible, $4,000 in rent for a studio to now you can go into a tier 2 city with similar infrastructure and similar talent and do it for $1,000 a month. That's the difference
Amazing.
in this.
Amazing. So, Skylar, I talked about, I know you're not out there just saving salmon and making sure that the bad guys end up on our plate and the good guys spawn, right? So you got some amazing use cases. I just read a stat recently, the IoT market, one of the fastest growing markets, $1 trillion. In fact, what's interesting, when we look at even our practice area, people are not leaning in enough in terms of what's happening out there. So it's not just fish gates in Norwegian rivers. Give us a sense for what you're really seeing in terms of real commerce in the IoT and AI space.
Yeah, and I'd say over the last few years, really the adoption is, partners are getting more comfortable with it, but I think that's where that stopping point is. I think it's the fear of the unknown, how to start that conversation with that end user customer. And I'd say my best advice would be to really understand and kind of get outside of IT, which we've all traditionally sold into. IT's always involved. But the opportunity for you as partners out there is now you just open up with IoT all of these other budgets. And I think that's what a part that partners are missing, right? You can deal with HR, loss prevention, operations, because IoT applies to everything. Your wife's example, right, at the hospital. We provide a remote sitter technology for exactly that, to make them more efficient, right? They've got to take care of patients, but they also have to walk around with a clipboard, manually checking temperature of vaccines and pressure and equipment, along with taking care of patients. We can automate that by putting in simple temperature sensors within their vaccines and using AI to monitor the patient's basically stability and how they're doing. Are they rolling over? Are they uncomfortable? Are they out of bed? And basically using artificial intelligence combined with sensors underneath the hospital bed to make sure that that patient is comfortable, or using posture assessment with artificial intelligence to see if they've slipped or fallen down. So one last kind of use case, which is a recent one, was we work with one of the largest waste management companies. And so we flew out there to meet with their executives, and we were gonna do license plate recognition, and they had some theft for their garbage trucks. And so as we're walking into to their main building, it was also a transfer station, I see half of their building was on fire. Or it had been on fire, and 3 or 4 garbage trucks. Because of the lithium batteries, the e-cigarettes, the dozers come in, and it starts a fire with those lithium batteries. And so I looked over at the executives, and I go, what's that gonna cost you guys? And they said roughly, several $100,000. And I said, why don't we start there? And so what we did is created an artificial intelligence model to detect fire within their transfer stations. And then we used thermal cameras to measure the heat index before a fire was present, and then automatically send alerts to everybody that's on site there, so they can immediately put out the fire before they engulf. And we've already caught 2 fires already, so immediate ROI. Now we're back to license plate recognition, site security, and things like that. So start across out of IT. Start with some simple challenges, like if you see a fire or if there's efficiencies in a hospital. Those are easy ROI models that we can provide for the customers.
No, that's great. First off, I got to back up though. Why are people stealing garbage trucks? I mean, are you guys in on that? I mean, I'm not sure.
Catalytic
if I'm gonna
converters.
steal something, that's where I'm going to start. But anyways, that's a great use case. In fact, the fire prevention, I would imagine that like a dominant theme here, and then not just AI, but insurance, right? Insurance. So you're a hedge against insurance. Rob, you've got a real hedge against insurance. What's going on with cyber insurance out there in the world? Is it getting easier to do, harder? I mean, you got all the bad guys. Is it crazy to buy cyber insurance? Give us the lay of the land, if you don't mind.
So the cyber insurance, no shock to any of you that know the insurance industry, they don't like to insure anything they can't make money on. So as they're beginning to get bigger hits on ransomware and other breaches, they're pulling out of the industry. They're putting up more stringent standards. They're really raising their rates. They're making it very hard for the average sort of like SMB to mid-market or even lower enterprise to cost effectively buy cyber insurance. So the biggest thing when you're looking at those policies is understand what's included and what's not and what your requirements are. Some of the basic fundamentals is you need to have EDR, you need to have an outsourced security provider, you need to have SIM, you need to have other products and services that Thrive offers in terms of being able to keep you protected. And if you don't have these, or you're not applying them, or you're not keeping them up to date, it voids your insurance policy and it voids your coverage. So when you're going out and looking at getting cyber insurance, or you're working as an advisor with some of your customers, really important to drill down, not just on the price of those policies, what's included, what their responsibilities are. It could create selling opportunities for you guys as advisors to make sure that everything in those policies is included and that they have somebody that's doing that for them. Otherwise, it voids the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary stuff, right? I was actually I'm on the board of a company that got hacked. And what's interesting is they wanted Bitcoin first off, and we're like, okay, that was a whole challenge unto itself. Ended up not paying it, but when we went back as part of the auditing process, we had to actually show compliance around EDR and all the capabilities, and so we had to bring in a managed service provider because, as you would imagine, a nonprofit, although largest in the Bay Area, we had half a full-time equivalent. So I got to believe that's a fairly common use case, right? Somebody calls you up, their hair's on fire, they just got hacked. I need to actually, first off, they shut down your financial operations. That's one of the first things they go for, hence the need to have Bitcoin, right? Because you're panicking. You can't hit the general ledger. Can't pay payroll.
Right, and that's one of the advantages. We've recently launched remediation services. We've done it a lot for our managed service clients, but now we're offering it for our security alone clients, because what happens is you have an alert, you have a problem, you have to declare a cybersecurity event. You have these monitoring point in time security providers that tell you, hey, you're screwed, there's been a breach. Okay, what do I do now? Well, good luck. Go figure it out. You have your own internal IT team, do you have a managed service provider? A lot of times the managed service providers, their internal IT teams aren't under contract to do it. Right. The best ransomware protection is having a brand new live Zerto copy of all your data that you can just simply restore and not have to answer that ransomware vest. So looking at a full comprehensive solution is really probably the best way of attacking sort of that insurance problem.
Got it. So Raghu, you talked about billions of minutes, you talked about CX, everybody out here is a customer in some fashion. What is a great use case that we can walk out of here with that you guys did out there? Because you guys are doing like everything from intelligent virtual assistant, sentiment analysis is almost yesterday, right? So give us a real tight use case, if you could, in terms of what's going on out there, maybe a customer that you can share with us, or.
I think this conference is about really, outcomes, and I'm happy to share, some of the examples that we have seen. One is the world's largest staffing company, Randstad, and they were servicing their entire workforce, which they were supplying to other companies who had a ton of queries on their payrolls and the support from the company, benefits, etc. And they really were looking to make sure that one, everyone has a great experience getting their answers really fast without putting a lot of load on their contact center. Second, they wanted to spend money on their entire workforce and not on the contact centers per se. And they came back with us and asked us, can we get about 40 to 50% automation rates? And this was one of the first deployments of generative AI on voice that can go ahead and respond to the customers, integrate with their core systems, get the payroll data, get the benefits data, and answer the customer back. And to their surprise, their economic model of this went completely haywire on the positive side, where they realized about 90% automation rates within a month of deployment. This has been one of the massive successes. Reduced cost, less than 90% is right now not sent out to their outsourcing partners, so direct benefit there in terms of cost. So all of you technical advisors, you're really out there in delivering economic outcomes to their customers, and this is one of the biggest one. The second example that I would like to take is on the ordering and the commerce side. This is a customer called Feral Gas. It's one of the largest propane gas distributors in North America. And they were really missing out on some orders because they didn't have the workforce that covers 24/7. And as with energy, there really peaks in when people want to order this propane gas, and they can't really have an elastic workforce. They implemented Yellow AI solution in automating, taking orders, and managing these customers. Now they don't miss any orders. AI scales anytime, any volume, and their order volume on AI, covers about 80 to 90% of the orders that they receive. And in fact, with the latest GenAI update, we not only were able to take static orders, but actually enable AI to make decision making around offers, discounting, so as to retain and serve the customers with more delight. I mean, can't ask for more examples than this, because these are tens of millions of dollars of savings or revenue added for companies, which they are willing to share with the companies that are providing the solution, and that's win-win for us and the partner ecosystem here.
So you're talking about workforce, and I think Rich and I were talking about this earlier. This idea of workforce, the new workforce of the future is not just the people, but the bots.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if there's kind of, in fact, one of the Wall Street Journal articles I pasted up there, it actually said, is there, do they have rights too? I think that was Joanna Stern at the Wall Street Journal was probably poking a little fun there. But I want to step back. If I'm a tech advisor, what do I walk out of here with? Like, I've got pressure from the board. I'm maybe a CEO or I'm a mid-sized business. What should I be thinking as a organization? But if I'm a tech advisor, what should I be telling these folks? Should they go slow to go fast? Should they create an AI committee? Anybody got thoughts on like how to approach this from an operator perspective? Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, from a sales perspective, it's not what any of us really want to hear, but it's honestly starting small. When I mentioned the challenge of the fire, right? It's really biting off one piece at a time, especially as customers get more comfortable with this type of technology and that fear of the unknown that I mentioned. So find that one challenge that can provide an immediate ROI. And from there, once the infrastructure's in place, once the software and the alerting's in place, right, then you can build on it from there. Our average customer growth from time of signing a contract is 170% growth, right? Because we solve one challenge at a time, and then once they understand it, they feel comfortable, they see the ROI, and the infrastructure's in place, then it's hanging another sensor, another camera, another use case out there, and the revenue and the wallet share grows for you as partners.
Yeah, from my perspective, I always like to say that history might not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Today we are in the world where if you look back during the internet era, when the internet was still up and coming, people were like, "What is this thing? It's just a fad." New York Times and Wall Street Journal both said that this is going to be a passing fancy. 20 years later, all of our jobs depend on it, right? So I always say keep it simple. Today what's happening is a lot of smart people are doing a lot of dumb jobs. They're wasting a lot of productive hours into this. So from an operator standpoint, like, hey, how can I make my current asset, which is produce more? And that is by introducing efficiencies. And at the same time, how can it impact your customers? And everyone in this room has its own, they have their own customers. Some are actual customer facing, some are internal customers. The goal should be keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. See where we can actually go ahead and implement efficiencies where something that's already out there and can be easily built out. And we are also in a world where AI is growing faster than anything else that you can think of. Internet took 20 years to become mainstream. We believe AI is already mainstream, thanks to ChatGPT for that, commercializing AI to everyone. But keep in mind, ChatGPT is the very first initial small step in a vastness. So making yourself comfortable with the unknown is going to be the theme for the coming decade.
That's right, yeah. I've got a great stat here, this next slide, where you can actually see the focus from business owners. That's why I was asking. Like, if I'm a business owner and there are a lot of your customers, or maybe some of you are in here, what are we looking at? And I think we hit on almost several of them, right? Like inventory management we talked about. We talk to a degree, but we talk about customer experience and security as one of the prime opportunities here. What else? What else do you want, as we're wrapping up here, what else do you want the team here to walk out of? So yeah, Raghu.
Yeah, I think one thing that I keep talking about is why to even sell AI? Why is that important? You're selling a lot of products. I think this is the anecdote, if anyone wants to walk away with this room, is every time there is a really big new technology, the wealth created, value created, supersedes the historical wealth creation in the world till that point. You have seen this with industrial revolution. You have seen this with internet revolution, where potentially, I haven't checked the numbers, but I would wager that the value created by internet companies over the last 30, 40 years supersedes the value that's been created in the world so far. AI is that movement, which I believe the value and wealth creation that this can generate will supersede all the wealth creation and value generated in the world so far. And you really want to be a part of this, driving value to them.
So jump in, people, jump in.
Get uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob.
I think Anant hit on it pretty well in terms of, right now in a choppy economy, things are booming, obviously, Florida, Texas, and other markets, but globally and in other markets, everyone's sort of in an uncertain mode with interest rates, and are we going to recession? Are we going to come out of a recession? So right now, the go-go growth time is kind of slowed in a lot of areas, so everybody's looking like, how do I make my company more efficient? Right? AI is a perfect example of how I make my company more efficient. If you go back to those late 90 times, everybody was talking about ASP and VoIP and the internet, and at that time, you had a dot-com crash. Okay, so it didn't really happen at that point in time, but 10 years later, you blinked and it was everywhere. That's it's part of our life now. That's sort of the way, we sort of see AI. It may be this huge spiral up and may continue to snowball, but 10 years from now, it is going to be a massive, prevalent part of all of us. And if you're meeting with your clients, you want to talk to them how you can make them more efficient, how you can make them more successful, how you can do more with less. Look at your vendors and your partners and your master agent, obviously, at Telarus, to help understand how you can be a value-added advisor to bring them in their digital transformation and reduce their costs, make them more efficient, and use AI to do that. So.
What's interesting is we see all the time our tech advisors beating out the GSIs, the global system integrators. So we just want to deal against Deloitte, just beat Accenture. One of the deals, it was a 3-person operation. They used a lot of the resource that are available from folks like us, and they're taking down large digital transformation projects, leaning into AI like this. I wanted to just real quick, I know we want to wrap here in a minute. In fact, we've got an AI summit. What's interesting is we put it out there, and literally 3 emails later, we're actually doubling the size of the ballroom here. We're in Dallas, and it's starting with Jason Lowe and the team are doing deep education on what is AI, how to think about it, what's a large language model on through. But that shows you how, literally it was an email. In fact, it was an email from me. I'm surprised it got through on the spamometer. But 200 people immediately are signed up for this thing. So it shows everybody's jumping in. Any last thoughts here? I know folks want to get out to the exhibit hall. They want to, in fact, you guys are all in the exhibit hall. I think you're in either our booth or you've got your own booth. There's a lot of world-class suppliers out there, folks. So anything else before we wrap up? All right. Hey, guys, thanks for coming out. Thanks to the team. Appreciate it. We're around if you want to ask questions. Thanks, guys. Thanks.